You know, when you picture a farm, you probably think of rich, dark soil and healthy green fields. But there's an invisible story playing out right under our feet. And it all starts with something we use everywhere, every day: plastic. So let's dig in and uncover how this modern convenience became a hidden threat.
Right, so across the country, agricultural plastics have become a total game changer. I'm talking about these long sheets of mulch film that help warm the soil, keep moisture in, and stop weeds from growing. They're cheap, they're effective, and they've absolutely supercharged farming.
And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? We've gotten really good at using plastic to make things grow, but we're only now starting to grapple with what happens next, with the fact that this stuff sticks around. So what is the real cost of all this convenience?
To figure that out, we have to follow the plastic itself, because it doesn't just disappear. Oh no, it breaks down, and it transforms from a helpful tool into something way, way more insidious.
So here's the fundamental problem. Unlike, say, straw or leaves, these plastic sheets don't just biodegrade. And trying to collect every single little piece from a giant field, it's just not practical. It's way too expensive. So a lot of it just gets tilled right back into the ground, where the sun and the weather just start beating it down, season after season.
And this whole breakdown process creates something scientists call microplastics. The best way to think of it is like plastic dust. These tiny little fragments, less than 5 millimeters across, start mixing into the soil, becoming a permanent fixture in our agricultural land.
And the sheer scale of this is, well, it's staggering. We hear all the time about plastics in the ocean, right? But some studies suggest the amount of plastic we release onto land every year could be up to 23 times higher than what goes into the oceans. It's crazy. While our focus has been on the water, our farmland has quietly become one of the biggest plastic reservoirs in the world.
And this plastic isn't just inert, it's actually creating a brand new habitat for microbes. It's so distinct that scientists even gave it a name: the plastosphere. It's basically an artificial ecosystem where certain bacteria and fungi just love to live, and it's totally changing the natural chemistry of the soil.
But believe it or not, the physical particles are only half the story. To really get the full picture, we've got to look deeper at the invisible chemicals that are silently leaching out of these plastics and into our farmland.
See, most plastics aren't just pure polymer. To make them soft and flexible, manufacturers mix in these chemicals called plasticizers. And here's the real kicker. These additives aren't chemically bonded. They're just kind of mixed in, which means over time, they can, and they absolutely do, leach right out.
And this slide just shows you how wild it is. We call something plastic, but in some cases, up to 70% of its actual weight is these additives that can just leak out. So that ghost in the plastic, it isn't some tiny trace element. It can be the main ingredient.
Now, the most common type of these additives are called phthalates, especially DEHP and DNBP. Those are the two big ones you find in soil. And as people get more concerned about phthalates being endocrine disruptors, chemicals that mess with your hormones, the industry just pivots. They start using new plasticizers that we know even less about. It's like a game of chemical whack-a-mole.
And you can see that so clearly right here. In study after study of contaminated soil, the results look just like this. Those huge, towering green and pink bars, that's your DEHP and DNBP. They aren't just in there. They completely dominate, leaving this distinct chemical fingerprint all over our farmland.
Okay, so it's in the soil. Why should we care? Well, this isn't just some abstract environmental thing. This contamination has very real, very direct pathways from the farm right into our bodies.
So how does it get to us? Well, first, it's the food chain. The particles and the chemicals they carry get taken up by plants and animals that we eat. Second, it's that long-term slow drip exposure to these endocrine disrupting chemicals. And third, it's a direct hazard for farm workers who are breathing in this dust and handling these plastics day in and day out.
And the risk gets so much worse when you look at how this plastic often gets thrown away. Recycling programs for farm plastics are either too expensive or just don't exist in a lot of places. So what's a common solution? Just burning it in open pits right there on the farm.
Now, this might sound like a simple fix, but it is incredibly dangerous. Burning plastic releases this toxic cocktail into the air. I'm talking about things like dioxins and furans, which are known to cause cancer. It creates this superfine particle pollution that gets deep into your lungs. And then the toxic ash that's left over just creates a whole new contamination problem for the soil and water. There's just no winning.
And the risk is so bad that experts, like the folks at Penn State Extension, put out these really stark warnings. This one says it all. The danger is especially high for kids and young people, whose bodies are just so much more vulnerable to these toxic fumes.
So what we're looking at is this self-perpetuating cycle. We use the plastic to grow our food, the plastic pollutes the soil, and then our attempts to get rid of it can create even more pollution. And breaking this loop, it's one of the biggest environmental challenges we have right now. And it's so important to understand, this isn't on the farmers. They are stuck in a systemic trap. In many places, like Pennsylvania, the infrastructure to actually recycle agricultural plastic just isn't there. It leaves them with no good options, which kind of leaves us with this one final really sobering question. The very quality we engineered into plastic, its durability, its permanence, is now its greatest threat. We designed this material to literally never go away, and now it's piling up in the soil that we absolutely need to survive. So what happens when an unstoppable material meets an irreplaceable resource?